2019 was the first time I ever did a solo gig. And then by the beginning of 2021, I'd been on Drag Race. Anatomy for Beginners, which was a show where they cut up dead bodies and showed you the anatomy. They had.
I'm slightly worried where this is going.
No. It's not what you think. I was always having to sort of keep my younger siblings away and keep my mum and dad apart. So it was kind of stressful, I'm not going to lie. Being gay was the thing I could feel in my body, but like I was desperate not to be. That was when it was like the most intense, and I felt like in my head I'd be on the tube and it felt like everyone was looking at me, and I felt it was really strange. So the only reason I would be hesitant to go back is just because.
Hello and welcome back to the queerest podcast telling the fiercest stories. This is Queer Talker and I'm Ben Cicchetti. Before we get to my conversation with the phenomenal Ella Vaday, I have a favour to ask. Wherever you are watching or listening to this episode, hit that subscribe button. It's one click that's going to make a massive difference. It's going to allow me to grow this podcast, and it's going to allow me to bring you the best and the queerest episodes every single time. So in advance, thank you. Now to my conversation with Ella. As they famously said, as they stepped into the workroom of RuPaul's Drag Race UK, you are about to have one Ella Vaday, because today I am joined by the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent that is Ella Vaday. Ella, welcome to Queer Talker.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ben. I've been listening to your podcast. I've been tuning in, finding out what's going on, what's the goss. Yeah.
Done the research, know what questions are coming. Amazing. Well, we will start with a little game I like to call Queer Panic, a rapid set of questions. You just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind, starting with, what was the first album you ever owned?
Oh, first album. That would have been a random one. It was Oh What a Night, when they re-released it in the 90s. I think it was 1996. And I maybe bought it on cassette tape. I would have been maybe 8 years old in HMV, and I think as a young kid I was obsessed with that song. And it had I listened to it last night, weirdly, and it has the rap section. I was thinking, I could do this in my gigs, and then the rap bit started. I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe I won't do that.
I reckon you could pull it off.
But yeah, there we go.
I love that. Well, speaking of that, what is your go-to lip sync song of choice?
I don't lip sync, so I don't have a lip sync song, but because I sing live, I think I've got a couple of favourite songs that I like to sing. I think Rise Like a Phoenix is a really lovely power ballad. It's got a queer message to it. It's got sort of a message for anyone that feels lost or not part of a group, or, like you want to rise. And I just love singing it. And the other song, completely opposite, would be Whenever, Wherever by Shakira, just because at the end of a night, it's just brilliant.
Yeah. Got all the hip movements going and everything. I can see that being a definite thing.
I try.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Do you know what? I didn't really have celebrity crushes. I don't really sort of follow celebrities or do anything like that, and I never have. So like when people say, "Oh, do you get overwhelmed when you meet a celebrity?" I'm like, no, because I don't really care. But I had a couple of random ones. I think one of my I didn't really ever have a celebrity crush that was a woman as such, but like a man. I think one of my sexual awakenings was Brad Pitt at the end of Fight Club. There was a tiny clip right at the end, which I'd recorded on VHS. And the other one, this is really random. You're going to get an aspect of how my brain works and the sort of person I am. Anatomy for Beginners, which was a show where they cut up dead bodies and showed you the anatomy. They had.
I'm slightly worried where this is going.
No. It's not what you think. There was a live model called Dennis who would come on naked, and they would show the bits of anatomy on Dennis, and Dennis was gorgeous. And I remember being quite young, but thinking, oh, Dennis is really hot, and I had that taped on VHS as well. So if you forget about the anatomy and the dead bodies and stuff, and just focus on Dennis and his lovely body. They were my random celebrity crushes, so they're not even
Love
celebrities.
that. I love that. Dennis is great. I'm gonna have to look Dennis up now. Maybe I'll try and share it on social alongside this so everyone can
I've
enjoy
tried.
Dennis.
There's not much evidence of Dennis left, but I'll find the VHS. I've
Interesting.
probably got it.
Interesting. Okay, amazing. What is your biggest red flag?
Oh, the biggest one. I mean, I have lots of red flags. I think my biggest one would be um, a character trait in a person where they will have a little bit of a lack of morals. They'll say one thing, but they'll do the other, or they'll bitch about a person and read them to filth, but then the next minute they're out with them having a jolly, or they're working for them, and it drives me mad. Like when people say, I hate this person, I hate working for them, they don't pay me on time, and the next week they're working for them, it does my head in. I'm the sort of person, if I don't like something, I get out of the situation and, I never go back to it. So that gets on my nerves. I just find it two-faced, and I just don't, I'm a very straightforward person.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest red flag is when someone can't just tell it how it is, because I would rather just know straight up. There we go.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's great. And by the way, Two Faced by Louise Redknapp is an amazing lip sync song. I think it would be my lip sync song. So I'm glad you referenced
really?
that.
Okay. I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's a tune. It's a tune. What was your favorite look on Drag Race?
I think my favorite look was the watermelon look that I did in the like fruit runway, whatever the name of that runway was, because I'd come up with the whole design myself, like in terms of a sketch. So I saw it through from sketch through to finish, and it just turned out really well. And I won that week too. So it just kind of, I mean, I would have changed what wig I had on, but I didn't have any money and didn't have any time, and it was lockdown. But in terms of the dress, I was just really happy with how it turned out, and they really liked it. And I think there's nothing better than seeing one of your ideas sort of pay off. And so, yeah, I think that would be my favorite.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's my husband's favorite, actually. We had this conversation before I was recording this because mine was the Zodiac
Really?
Goddess. I think the Zodiac Goddess is like iconic.
Ah,
And his was the watermelon dress. So that's super interesting.
yeah. Oh, that's nice. I tried it on without, because I don't wear breastplates anymore, and I tried on the watermelon dress just with bare chest, and it looked dodgy. But I've got a bit of a pec now that can fill it,
There
but
you go.
not as much as those big old titty bibs that I don't
Yeah.
wear anymore. Thank God. Because they are too sweaty. I don't know how I did it.
I bet. I don't want to think about it. Yeah, I bet.
Nightmare.
What is your favorite place in the world other than Dagenham East, obviously?
Oh, my favorite place in the world. Jesus, that is tricky. I think one of my favorite places, my favorite memory of visiting a place, if I can put it like that, because again, I don't really have favorite. I'm never really like a one thing person. I don't
Okay.
have a particular crush. I
Yeah.
don't have this. But when I toured Australia doing a solo tour a couple of years ago, straight after Drag Race, and that was really cool. It was really intense. I think just visiting Australia, which was just such a different place compared to where I grew up, and seeing all these random birds running around, and it's just so different, and the parrots and the cockatoos, and it was eye opening, and it was so cool. And I think as a kid, I almost lived there. My parents almost moved out there when I was very young, and it just made me think, God, my life could have been completely different. I could have ended up being like a surfer boy, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, Australia. Let's go for Australia. I
I
need to go
love that.
back though, because I need to go and get in the coral reef and see all of that. That is
Yeah,
something
that's
I'm
amazing.
desperate to do. Yeah,
Yeah. I spent 6 months in Melbourne, so totally shout out to Melbourne. It's a great city. A really,
it
really
is
nice city
great.
and amazing
Where
people.
are you? Where are you from?
I'm based here in the UK, and I've lived here in the UK, but I lived in Canada for like 4 years, and I spent 6 months in Australia. So my accent is kind of all over the place, and people assume I'm not British, but born and raised here in the UK.
Just picked up a bit of that. Bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bastardized my accent is how my family would say it completely.
Love that.
What is a queer movie that changed you?
Um, Queer movie that changed me. I would say, and it's not. I mean, it is a queer movie because there's queer characters in it. Rent, the musical. When I was
Yes.
at drama school, I think it had just come out. And again, I think I'd borrowed the DVD from someone and I'd recorded it onto a VHS. It was kind of a habit of mine. Like, rather
There's
than
a
me
big
buy it,
VHS collection somewhere.
yeah. I had a DVD and VHS TV, so it was quite. Oh no, maybe I didn't. I think maybe it's HDMI or whatever. But Rent, I thought was great. You know, you had two couples. You had a lesbian couple and a gay couple, and you had a very queer, trans, non-binary character, which back then wasn't a thing. And it was just a celebration. It was obviously it had sad moments, but the music was iconic. We sang it at college, and so I think that musical was a real sort of was a bit of a game changer for musical theatre and acting and stuff like that. So that sticks in my mind as a queer movie. I know it's a musical, but it's up
Yeah.
there.
It's amazing. It's amazing. What about a queer TV show that you recommend to everyone other than Drag Race, maybe?
The Yeah, obviously Drag Race. I think what it feels like to be a girl, which was on
Yes.
very recently, that was so good and so funny. And
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't get to speak to the actors that were at the Attitude Awards the other day, but I just thought it was just brilliant and so well written and so funny. And I think written in a time that I can kind of relate to, and yeah, I just think it's a really good storytelling and great actors. There was not a weak link amongst that whole bunch of people, and just a real showcase for queer talent and all binaries. Everything was going on in there. It was great.
Yeah, I love it. It's on iPlayer. Check it out if you haven't already seen it. You obviously famously won Snatch Game as Nigella Lawson. Let's imagine you're back for an All Stars. Who are you going to compete as?
Do you know? I was so nervous about doing it the first time. I cannot imagine having to do it a second time. It was scary, but I'm not saying I'm going back because I think you'd have to twist my arm very hard. But I think I've thought about doing Queen Camilla, Parker Bowles, because I think there's lots of sort of jokes you could do about, you know, the king, Charlie, and
Yeah.
all sorts. She loves horses, sat there with a fag.
Yeah.
One of my really old ideas was to do you remember Orville the puppet bird?
Yep.
Do you remember
Yep.
him?
Yep.
It was like, I
Yep.
wish I could fly. But have him like old. So like he's old, he's not been working. And then I don't know if I would be the puppet, but I thought about having Orville, the country singer, being the puppeteer of Orville the
That's
bird.
so
I
funny.
don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of my ideas the first time round to do Orville, but I wasn't sure if copyright would allow me to be dressed as a bird.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there was an idea. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who
But it
knows?
worked out,
But
clearly.
it worked out. It worked out. And I think I stuck to a character that I like I said on the show, I could improvise two more because I'm quite good at improv and just chatting rubbish. But Nigella worked out well, so thank God for that.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. Who is your ultimate queer icon?
There's too many. I think there's a lot of obvious ones that people always go for. And maybe mine is an obvious one. But I worked with Paula Grady, so like I would say Paula Grady, Lily Savage. I think as a kid would see Lily Savage on Blankety Blank, and then as I got older, Paula Grady's show started, Nodding Busters, all that stuff. And when I took a break from musical theatre because I thought I wanted to work in TV, so I worked as a runner, and I worked on the Paula Grady show when he came back from being ill. So I did work for him for a bit, and it was really lovely, and it was nice to work with him. And I just think he he kind of I don't want to say I see myself in him, but we saw both sides of Paula Grady and Lily Savage. So we saw the drag side and we saw the out of drag person who was just as lovely, just as funny. And I think that's something to aspire to. It's kind of what RuPaul does, you know, in his own way, Lily Savage and Paula Grady did in the UK. And so it kind of showed you, oh, you know what, you don't have to just be in drag and be known. So, you know, I want to be myself still. So there we go. Paula
I love
Grady,
that.
Lily Savage. Yeah.
I love that. Icon, national treasure. Great choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is one word you would use to describe your childhood?
Complex. Yeah. One word. It's too complicated to explain in one word.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we'll come back to it in a little bit.
Yeah. We'll revisit that.
Finally, what is your 5-year queer dream?
5-year queer dream. Gosh. Well, in 5 years, how old am I now? 5 years, I'll be over 40. So I think the queer dream is to be 40 and look 30. That's the queer dream. That's the plan. That's the 5-year plan.
We can all appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll just keep up the SPF, keep
Yeah.
up the working out, and pray to share.
Yeah.
Long live the Queen. Yeah.
That. You said complicated, so let's dig into it. Because I believe to understand a queer person as an adult, you do need to understand them and learn about them as a young person. So, what should I know about you as a child or a teenager to understand the Nick that sits in front of me today?
Well, firstly, I was born in Essex, but I grew up in the countryside in Suffolk, like really rural. So most of my childhood was kind of being outside in the garden, dogs, cats, we had chickens, rabbits, guinea pigs, chinchillas, all the animals, budgies, like the list goes on.
Got the
So like
Noah's Ark going on.
literally everything. And I as a kid, I was very creative, so I'd always be painting. I'd just be walking around talking to the plants, and I'd be talking like it sounds like a Disney movie, but like as a kid, we didn't have all the gadgets and gizmos that kids have these days. You know, an iPad wasn't thrown in my face. I was outside talking to snowbells in the grass and thinking they were taking me on a path. Like my mum definitely thought I was autistic, and I still do think I'm neurospicy, but we just live, we get on with it. And then I I mean, as a kid, my relationship with my dad has always been a struggle bus. Like we've always kind of been at heads with each other. We're much better now, but as I grew up, it got more and more intense at home, and I'm the oldest kid, so I was always having to sort of, you know, keep my younger siblings away and keep my mum and dad apart. So it's kind of stressful, I'm not going to lie. And I think it's trauma that I still haven't processed, maybe. But anyways, I moved school, I moved county in year 11, so I moved to Norwich, and all the time I was dancing multiple times a night, so we'd have to travel up to Norwich. So when my parents were divorcing, I was like, well, shall we just move to Norwich? Like our grandparents are there. Should we move? So I don't want to say like I was like, let's do it, but I was like,
Yeah.
don't worry about me. I know I want to go to dance college at 16. So I don't, as long as I get 9 GCSEs, that's all that matters. So I was kind of like, let's go. So we moved, and yeah, it was, and at the same time, I kind of knew that I was different, and I knew I was uh, not straight, but I had too much going on to even think about me. I had to worry about everyone else. I had to worry about starting my coursework again. I had to worry about auditioning for different colleges around the country. So it was a lot. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was a lot. But I think that's why I've always loved performing, because it kind of is my escapism, and that's what kept me going, really. You know.
Yeah. And then do you remember, obviously, in that environment where you kind of, you know, that you're probably not straight, do you remember the first LGBTQ plus person you became aware of, either in real life or through TV media?
All I know is that on TV there was barely any representation. Most of the gay men I saw on TV were the butt of the joke, or they were
Yeah,
super camp, and there was some real life people, not like celebrities, but near my nan's house, she had some best friends who were gay, who ran a fish and chip shop, and my nan was good friends with them. So I knew that they were gay. I didn't understand what it was, but I
yeah,
also understood that it was not a good thing, and it was, you know, being gay was almost like, oh God, the it was like the poofters at the fish shop. You know,
yeah,
that would
yeah,
be kind of how they were referenced, and so you hear all these slurs throughout life from everyone. You know, racial slurs, everything. You know, back in growing up in the 90s, uh, so I was born 88, so yeah, most of the 90s, early 2000s, everyone was a shirt lifter or this is it.
yeah,
So being gay wasn't a positive thing. So I wasn't like privy to any positive role models. Nothing on TV. Section 28. I mean, I
yeah,
saw you chatting to Helen. We have a similar age range, us slut. So Section 28 started the year I was born, and I can't remember when it finished. Maybe 2004 or three or something like
yeah,
that, just before I went off to college. So like I had no education about anything different than straight culture, and even then I was so naive. I did not understand really how sex even worked when I when I was a teenager. So like um so yeah, to sum it up, like being gay was the thing I could feel in my body because
yeah.
I had attractions to men, but like I was desperate not to be. And that's so sad thinking back, but it's just how I felt. It was like if I come out as the eldest one of my family, they're expecting me to have kids, you know, because I do look after people, looked after my family, looked after my mum, you know, they expected something, or that's what I thought. And I think you take on the burden of what you think someone expects of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and on Drag Race, you obviously talked about and shared kind of that experience, being in a small village and feeling like no one was like you, and kind of, as you say, kind of wishing the gay away. That really stayed with me kind of as I rewatched the show in preparation for this conversation.
Well,
What was it like navigating that isolation? And what would you maybe say to a young queer person who maybe listened to this and maybe feeling that same kind of way?
it was difficult because at school no one was openly gay, and as I said, I didn't want to be gay, so I did
Yeah,
everything to hide any feminine trait I had. I wouldn't tell anyone I went to dancing. People just thought I was going to drama class like 4 nights a week. Um, so I did everything I could to hide. So I think that's difficult, and the more that you just get so in your head, and when you've got so much going on anyway, it was awful. I think I would like to hope that these days you can see somebody on television through all these shows that you can relate to. You know, you've got 6 series of Drag Race. You've got I Kissed a Boy, I Kissed a Girl. So I hope there's loads of other shows obviously as well. I would hope that through shows with the conversations that happen on shows like that, that it helps somewhat. And I know from my experience, I've had messages where people have messaged me and said that you gave me the confidence to come out and to kind of accept who I am, and or they'd be like, I didn't know somebody that looked like me was allowed to do drag. And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. So and also just like I always think there's no rush for you to conform to do anything you want that you don't want to do. You are the sort of owner of your destiny. So like don't be pressurized. There's too much pressure in the world, and I think social media does not help that at all as well. There's way too much pressure, especially on younger people. I grew up, you know, no social media, didn't know what was going on, didn't have a clue. And in a way, I wouldn't want it any other way because I think sometimes I think younger people are are exposed to way more than they need to know too young, and that worries me a lot. I can't imagine how different I would have turned out had I been on Instagram and TikTok my whole life. I think
Yeah.
I would be a different person completely.
I agree. I think it's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of exposure to quote unquote perfect that just isn't realistic.
No,
And just
no.
the interactions they have on social media can be a lot more damaging, I think, than, my Nokia 3210. There was only so much you could do with it.
So yeah, it's like social media, we just post the good bits mostly. I mean, I do it. I post when I've been to the gym and I've got a pump, or like, you've always got to be aware that someone isn't going to show you how they look when they wake up in the morning. We don't take a dump or take a picture of it, do we? Like, you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
going to see the best bits. Um, and as soon as I thought, the Queen takes a shit every day, then I thought, you know what, we're all the same.
Yeah.
And the sooner you realize that, the better, because you need to just have less fucks to give, I think, generally in life. And that takes time. That really does take time to sort of be more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah. And then speaking of that, when did you first feel comfortable in your own skin? When did you start to feel authentically yourself? And then when did you feel you could bring that authenticity to kind of everything that you do?
I think because I didn't come out till I was about 20 or 21. So I think it wasn't until my later 20s that I started to understand more who I was, more comfortable. But 30s, like I'm 36, my 30s have been my best era so far. It's literally been my no fucks given era, where I've just been like, right, we're in a was doing this, lockdown happened, now we're doing this. And yeah, I do feel that I understand what I like, what I don't like. I have to push myself out of my comfort zone a lot sometimes. But I also know that I thrive under pressure. So, like, I think by the time you get to 30, you've been through everything that you possibly could. And hopefully, I mean, I feel by this stage in life that I got a grasp of when I'm going to find something annoying, I take myself away. Something's going to upset me, don't even bother. you know so yeah, I do feel my best self. And I spoke to someone the other day who is 42, and they're like, you wait for 40s, you're going to love the 40s. So I'm like, bring it on. I actually
Let's
don't
go.
care about age. I feel like my brain has finally caught up to my body. I've always felt like I had an old head on a young body, like young shoulders. And I do feel like I finally kind of reached the right stage, and now it's just going to I'm going to suddenly age. But yeah, I do feel like I've finally sort of found the right place in life, and things are just going. I'm just happy. I'm just good. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I got some advice when I was younger that, your 20s are kind of your throwaway decade. They're a bit messy and you just kind of do what you do. And then your 30s is when you kind of figure it out. And then your 40s and 50s is where you kind of enjoy what you figured out. So
Mm.
that's kind of how I've always looked at things. And in my research, if it's correct, before Drag Race, you appeared in dozens of West End productions: Cats, Fame, Wicked, Hairspray, and more. What were those experiences like? And do you have any desire to return to the stage in any
I mean,
capacity?
dozens of West End ones is a bit of an exaggeration.
Okay.
When you go by, I was watching the when they do the release of the cast thing, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, let me tell you what ones I haven't been in. It's like, oh god, that's so not true. I did Wicked and Book of Mormon in the West End, and I started Hairspray at the beginning of lockdown. We did 3 days of rehearsals, and then lockdown happened. But yeah, I've done Fame, Cats, White Christmas. What else have I done? I can't even remember. But yeah, loads of stuff. My first ever job was actually on X Factor as a dancer when I was 19, for Owen Quigg. Could It Be Magic Now? Like, because I started out as a dancer, and then I gradually realized I could sing, and then I worked my way up to covering leads, and where I was before lockdown was cover Corny Collins playing sketch. Um, but yeah, it was about 12, 13 years of hard graft because it's a
Yeah.
difficult career. So um, you never really know where you're going to end up because you have to go and audition amongst hundreds of people that want the same job.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I loved it, and the thing I miss most is actually sort of being part of a group of friends that get
Mm.
to just play on stage every night, 8 times a week. You never had a bad day really, or if you were having a bad day, you had mates there to cheer you up. And as soon as you step on stage anyway, you forget about your day. And I think that's how my whole life has been. My whole life has been stress, stress, stress during the day, and then I'd go to dance class, forget about it, focus on me. Now I don't really dance, but I use the gym for that sort of thing. So that's my escapism now. Um,
Yeah.
and in terms of going back to it, I'm always dipping my toe in and out of the industry. Like I'm a person that doesn't just do one thing, which I keep saying. I've never been one to do one thing. So like even though people know me as a drag queen, like obviously I had this whole career before, so I'm not just going to throw away the Nick Collier side that I achieved. But since doing Drag Race, I was in a film. I do voiceover work for an upcoming like Xbox game, I think it is, which will be cool. And I'm actually doing a play which hasn't been announced yet, but I'm going to be doing a little short play up north for a bit. So yeah,
Love
I
that.
actually did a self tape yesterday for TV. So I've always got stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm not one to always be posting like, oh, just been to an audition,
Yeah.
because when you're an actor and you do that, it just gets so annoying because everyone's like, how did it go? Have you heard yet? Blah 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 blah. And I'm
Mm.
like, it's best I just like zip, don't tell anyone, get on with my life. And that doesn't always work with the social media of these days where you have to record every bloody thing you do from waking up to going to sleep. But I'm quite a private person, so I do sometimes find social media a little intrusive, and I do wonder sometimes how some of these content creators do it. I'm just like, I'm exhausted. If I have to do one
Instant. Yeah.
reel, it's constant, and I've got so much respect for them, but it's not for me. But I try my best.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's exciting things to come. We've seen it, right? You look at like Jinx Monsoon, did Broadway, did Doctor Who. So we've seen these kind of drag queens and these performers move into kind of these worlds. And obviously you've got the background. So it sounds like this is something that kind of would be very natural for you. Let's
Yeah.
obviously talk about drag. When did you realize you had a passion for doing drag? And then how did you get started?
So I'd always watched it from the original series. My best friend Dale was working on a cruise ship, Royal Caribbean, going around America and stuff, and had heard about Drag Race. When he came back, I think via sort of illegal links, like how we used to have to do it, we'd watch Drag Race together, and sort of time would go on, kept watching it. Then it was on Netflix, and then it became kind of a ritual that we'd do at the Book of Mormon. So like in between a matinee on a Saturday, we'd watch Drag Race, certainly
That.
Drag Race UK. So yeah, Drag Race UK, I watched in my dressing room at Book of Mormon on the floor with the boys eating Nando's or whatever. I just always really enjoyed it, and it was just camp, and it was larger than life, and some of the original American series, you just got absolute legends of drag there. I
Yeah.
just enjoyed it. I never imagined I would end up doing it whatsoever. But when I joined Book of Mormon, they used to do this charity night called Mad Drag Night, which was fundraising for a charity. And they asked me if I wanted to join. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I didn't know how to do makeup or anything, but Mac put me into makeup, a guy from Mac. The makeup wasn't very good, but it
Shade.
inspired me. It was shade. It was really bad. Like I've got really hard eyebrows to glue down. Bloody hell, he could not glue them down. The makeup was oof, terrible. But from that, and that was actually London Pride. We opened up the main stage. That was 2006, 2016, I think, or 17, I can't remember. Yeah, 2016, I think. But anyway, I was looking at my face and I was going, do you know what? I think I can do this better because
Mm,
I'm like that Catherine Tate character, you know. I can do that. I literally think I have gay audacity, which means I think I can do anything. So I bought makeup and I gave it a go, and it became just a hobby that I would do at home, you know, just cross dressing at home by myself. Sad, but then I did the drag night the year after, and then I left Book and Woman in 2019, and I didn't have a job to go straight onto. So I thought, do you know what, I've got a wig now. I can do a face. I'll put myself out there for a bit of drag work in between doing a bar job, you know, doing casting assistant stuff. Like, so that's how it happened. And then I worked with one of my best friends, Portia, who is based down in Brighton, and she got me into different gigs, and that's kind of how it happened. And I just, yeah, just did it, and I enjoyed it. And I didn't actually do my own solo sort of performance until 2019 was the first time I ever did a solo gig. And then by the beginning of 2021, I'd been on Drag Race. So it was it was quite a fast process. But yeah, I should probably mention, like, during lockdown, having done like 2 or 3 days worth of hairspray rehearsals and then suddenly not having a job and having no career because lockdown shut it all down, it was kind of
yeah.
stressful. I was working at Morrison's down the road, which was an experience. And so I used makeup and drag just at home as my escapism because there was no
Yeah.
gym and I don't like jogging and I didn't like doing that awful workout routines that everyone was doing at home. So I just did drag and I sat in my bathroom on the loo facing the window, and I'd just go on lives, and I kind of just built up my Instagram following like that. And then Drag Race came round because I'd applied for season two. I don't know why, that is mad. And they chased me for a video, and I just got cast in Hairspray. But then season three came out. We were stuck in a lockdown. I didn't know what was
Mm,
happening with Hairspray, so I thought, do you know what? Fuck it, let's go for it. So I got my video done, sent it in. Bob's your uncle. By Christmas of 2020, I was cast on the show, and yeah, and that's where it all changed. Mad.
yeah. And crushed it, clearly. Made it all the way to the final of Drag Race season 3. As you reflect on that experience, and you said it'd be quite a convincing job to get you back for All Stars. What was the biggest high from being on Drag Race? And then what, I guess, was the biggest low? Not to put a negative on it, but.
The only reason I would be hesitant to go back is just because the first time was such a kind of out there experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I had like a year and a half's experience, and most of that year was a lockdown. So like I went on and just, you know, got through it and did the best I could with what I knew from my past, and you know, and so there was sort of this constant stress. But maybe now I know more, I might overthink too much, and I know that I overthink a lot. So I'm sometimes better when I'm less prepared and I'm like, we just go for it, which was me the whole of Drag Race.
And it
And also
worked, clearly.
it works, but it's not good to live on your stress. I'll tell you that for
Okay,
free.
that's fair.
It's not good. I was always that kid at school that would do my homework the morning of. Like
Yeah,
I do everything so last minute, mainly because I know it'll be fine. I'll make it work. It'll be gorgeous.
confidence.
Yeah, my boyfriend hates me for that because he's very meticulous and very
Yeah,
organized, and I'm like, it's fine. Um, but I had a great experience. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, the highs and the lows.
yeah.
The highs. The highs was just succeeding and kind of surprising myself and kind of just realizing, like a bit like what I said, you know, just go in for it and kind of living that no fucks era kind of, do you know what, we're here for a laugh, we'll go for it. Especially with not much experience in drag. Like I felt like a con artist, but I did. It felt very out of body a lot of the time, and I just couldn't
Okay.
believe how it went. The lows would be the fact that, we had to do 10 days of isolation. Well, firstly, right, the lows. There's quite a lot of lows in terms of the prep for the show. It was a lockdown. I think we got cast late December. We'd just been told by Boris we couldn't go home for Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
And then all the shops were shut because of COVID. So like even people trying to buy fabric, they had to go in one at a time, pick their fabric. So Amazon was your best mate, like
Mm.
had everything delivered. And then we had to go to the hotel and isolate for 10 days, which was pretty hard. We still had our phones. And then they took our phones away. And I think that was the lowest point, was when I really just needed to talk to someone familiar, someone that I knew that wasn't, because you're not really allowed to talk to the queens
Okay.
off camera
Okay.
because you're on ice. Call it
Yeah.
ice because they obviously want to save the chat for on camera, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
But the
so
isolation
yeah,
must be tough to not have
that
anyone
was
to
it.
talk to about your experience.
Having been stuck in a house with my boyfriend for
Mm.
almost a year, to suddenly being locked, it felt like I was locked in like a horrible. No, it wasn't horrible. That's really. I won't mention the brand. A very dingy hotel room for 10 days, and then just going back to this lonely hotel room every night after recording the show, trying to think about the lip sync song for the next day, like all of this stress, and no one to be like, am I doing okay? Like,
Yeah.
can I have a hug? No one to have a hug, no one to sort of talk it through, because sometimes you can get lost in your own head and it's difficult in that situation. Yes, they have a psych guy that you can talk to, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, I'll be fine. But yeah, I think that was the low bit, just the need to talk to someone, and it was a very quick, intense experience with only 2 days off, so I was exhausted.
Yeah. I bet. I bet that must have been
Yeah.
exhausting. And then I guess, we talked about social media, and obviously Drag Race is one of the biggest shows in the world and definitely probably the biggest show in the queer community right now. So you're going to get lots of opinions, lots of critics, lots of voices. How did you adjust to, you'd obviously built up your following through lockdown, but then being on a BBC show, how did you adjust to suddenly being so clearly in the public eye?
God, it was very intense. It was a very strange experience, I've got to say. Like, I think especially being a bit older, like I gone through life, nobody noticing me, especially on the queer scene. I feel like, when I was young and twinky, no one gave a fuck, no one even looked at me. But then suddenly you're on Drag Race and then people recognize your name. Everyone's calling you Ella all the time. I'm like, that's not my
Mm.
name. My name is Nick. So, and then I had a couple of weird moments actually while the show was airing. That was when it was like the most intense. And I felt like, in my head, I'd be on the tube and it felt like everyone was looking at me, and I felt it was really strange. I can't even
Mm.
describe the feeling. I felt like everyone was always looking at me, and I'd
Yeah.
have dreams. I'd have dreams where the camera crew were in my bedroom, because I have these weird dreams where I'm semi-awake. I used to
Okay.
sleepwalk. I don't sleepwalk anymore, but like I used to dream that I was on camera all the time. So it's very odd. But there was this one experience. I was walking with my dog towards Liverpool Street Station, and this group of people were like, "Oh my God, Ella Vaday, do you win? Do you win?" And they suddenly surrounded me. One was picking up my dog in the air, and it just felt like, Jesus, I can stand up for myself, but like when you're surrounded by people and one's got your dog in the air and you can't be
Yeah.
rude to people and be like, leave me alone, because they're obviously fans of the show. It is very intense, and it's kind of unknown territory. You don't you expect it, but then you don't, and it comes at weird times. So yeah, but I've navigated that, and I think that was just very intense, like 3-4 years ago, and then over time, I'm still not used to it, and I'll still get recognized at the most weirdest times or the most awkward times. The worst being like when you're at a urinal. I've had someone
Yeah.
recognize me at a urinal. I had an
I don't think
experience
I'd ever
where
use a urinal again if I was in the spotlight.
no,
It'd be a cubicle every time.
I had one horrible experience. I was drunk, luckily, but my friend stopped somebody trying to take a picture of me having a wee at a urinal, and I think that's disgusting. Other awkward times is like when you're changing after having a shower at the gym and someone starts talking to you. I'm like, I'm trying to put my pants on. Do you mind? And another one, I was climbing Hadrian's Wall for a charity trek, and someone recognized me at the top of the hill, and I just thought that was really random. But yeah, in terms of like trolling and stuff, that has affected me over the years for sure. But we get over it, and I think you soon learn. You can block people. I think everyone should be allowed to block anyone that they just don't want to see. And I think the nature of Drag Race, people think they can be sassy or they can critique you all the time. And quite frankly, you shouldn't be. Like, uh, RuPaul and the judging panel critique the drag queens because that's their job. Like, I don't need you to critique me in normal life. Just leave me alone. I'm just a normal human. I'm just wearing a dress to a red carpet. I don't need to know if you thought I should wear different shoes. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you and the other girls, were you able to kind of like bond over the suddenness of it? Like, was there like a WhatsApp group or something where you could kind of speak to each other about, oh my God, this experience just happened to me, and how are you dealing with this and things like that?
Yeah, like straight away there was a group chat like immediately, and we all met up over the time before the show aired, and then we obviously went on tour together the year after it aired. And yeah, I've made amazing friendships. Like we're on the most part really close with each other and see each other a lot. Like um, I think I think we didn't really chat that deep. I don't think anyone really opened up to the whole group about if they were struggling or anything. And maybe that's because they did it privately. I think I didn't struggle that much with it, to be honest. Or if I did, I would just deal with it myself because that's the sort of person I am. I need to reach out for help. But
There's a
I
theme
don't
here.
want yeah, there's a theme. There's a theme. Um, eventually I will. But no, everyone supports each other on the most part because we're all sisters and we got through a very intense experience during a lockdown. It was so unique, and I would never I'd never change the experience at all because it made us who we are, and yeah.
I love that. So what was the biggest thing you took away from your experience on Drag Race?
Biggest thing I took away was probably just to trust my gut because usually if you overthink things, you're not going to make the right choice. I usually just go with what I think at the time and stick with it. And I still do that now. I'll be ready to do a gig and I'm like, I've got no idea what I'm about to say. I'm just going to see what comes out of my mouth and pray that it's funny and I'm not going to get cancelled. Um, yeah, I think I learned that I have a talent and people can appreciate what I do, and I think that's something that I'd always felt a little underappreciated in theatre, especially like when I worked as a swing and stuff. I felt so underappreciated and so just like, well done, well done. You've been on for 6 different people this week. Like they didn't really care. So at least doing drag kind of gave me the satisfaction. Do you know what? I created this whole thing myself from the way I look, what I said, what I sang, all that stuff. So I just felt not yeah, accomplished a bit. I felt like, do you know, well done, pat on the back. Because it's
Yeah,
not, we don't do that enough in life. I don't think we
100%.
say, do you know what, well done, you did well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that kind of recognition, it just helps kind of reassure you that, okay, I'm on the right track here. I'm doing the right things. So I completely appreciate that. If we started this conversation with kind of young Nick. So let's revisit him. If you could give him one piece of advice, I feel like they asked this on Drag Race, and maybe I'm repeating a RuPaul question.
Probably.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? And would it be different if I said, what advice would you give to just a young queer person in 2025?
Okay, this is where we can play the finale clip of
There
me
we go.
begging to win. I think I would say to my young queer self, I would just say take your time. Like, you might feel like you don't fit in, but maybe you'll never feel like you will fit in. And that's fine. I still don't feel like I fit in half the time now. So, I can't say to 9-year-old Nick, don't worry, but you'll be fine. You'll know exactly where you are, because that's not how life works. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly changing circles of friends. Um, Take your time, be yourself, because that's all you can be. And that's cheesy as hell, but it's true. We can't pretend to be someone else. I tried doing that when I was a kid. It didn't work out, did it? Look at me, I'm a drag queen. So, like, the me not wanting to be gay escalated terribly, because look at me. Look at what I did on telly. And I would say to any young queer person pretty much the same advice. Like, you're going to learn as you go along. Things are going to change. Your circles are going to change. Your feelings are going to change. And don't be desperate to just do one thing, because you can do multiple things. There's no one path in life. There we go. Good advice. Love that.
Amazing advice. I really, really enjoyed that. Obviously, what I'm doing with this podcast is I'm trying to spotlight amazing queer people like yourself who are great representation and just have had such an inspiration on so many people. Who in your network would you like to see or hear me speak to on this podcast? And then what one question would you want me to ask them?
Have you spoken to Michael Gunning yet?
I haven't. No.
So
He's on
I
my
think
wish
you
list.
should speak to my friend Michael Gunning, who's obviously an amazing Olympic swimmer. And I would want to ask him, with, obviously I dance trained as a kid and it was quite intense and went to college and all that. But as an Olympic swimmer, with the training schedule, with the commitment, the lifestyle sacrifices, has that impacted your gay experience? And how is dating? I'm just interested to know, under such an intense experience, such as being an athlete, whether you have to just hold off the relationship bit until later, and if that's affected him. That's what I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, I love that. We will definitely reach out and we will try and get him on the podcast and ask him that question. Ella, Nick, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, your story. I truly believe your representation is so important for so many people out there. Your representation, obviously on Drag Race, but now today, your representation across social media, across TV, across more and more to come. So thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you. Bye.
Quick talker walks